There's a real benefit in having been a podiatry patient in the past. There's a real benefit in having been sat on the chair being treated by a podiatrist for a foot problem. And I don't think we should underestimate that when we are communicating and talking to our patients. So for example, when I talk to patients who maybe are at risk of having foot ulcers, I can talk about my story and I can relay how I felt at the time, how limiting it was, my mindset, all of the things which sit around it, to try and explain to them in greater detail what the implications are if they don't look after their feet. And often that helps to connect people a little bit more. It helps people to make a better decision because they can see that you've already been there. They know that you've already experienced what they potentially could experience or maybe are experiencing now. But why is it that we don't use our own experiences in our marketing as much? And I'm guilty of this. It took me 5 or 6 years to actually start to use my story about what happened to me as a patient and my experience of having spina bifida and a club foot and ulcer. It took me 5 to 6 years before I started to use that in my practice. But when I did, it was massively, massively powerful. The thing is, we're all connected on many, many levels. If I go away somewhere to another part of the country and I hear a Midlands accent, being from Birmingham, there's an instant connection because of that. And that will spark up conversation and that helps with trust. And there's a whole host of things which go on. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be any different with our experiences of being a patient and being a practitioner who treats patients. So how many of you have had a foot problem? How many of you have experienced foot pain and are treating people with foot pain? I'm sure that there's quite a few of you. And how many of you have shared that story, have talked about having that foot pain and the treatment you've had and the experience you went through and the whole kind of episode of care? Chances are it's not very many. So the one thing I would urge you to do is I would urge you to revisit that experience. And I would urge you to start using that in your conversations with patients and your consultations. But most importantly, I would urge you to start using that in your marketing. Just imagine how cool it would be that a patient came to you because they could see that A, you really know your stuff, and B, you've had the problem that they've had. You have got experience on an unparalleled level. You have got experience of what it's like to have that problem and also experience of what it's like to be able to solve that problem. And that is really potent in your marketing. But we have a tendency to underplay our experiences. And if there's one thing I want you to get from this video is that your experience is important and it's powerful. And if you use it and talk about it and tell stories about it, it can make a massive difference to your marketing.